Okay, today we're going to work on the waiter. So I have here 3 brushes, a bright, round, and a small round. And that's all we need. Number 4, 1, and I believe number 0. So this is for fine details. And this one is for details as well, but not too fine. And this is for the big areas. So we're going to start with the face and the hand. So skin tone. I'm going to switch and zoom in. Okay, so I have here burnt sienna, and this is Winsor & Newton, so it's a little bit more orangey than the usual burnt sienna, and burnt umber and white. So I'm going to start with burnt sienna. And I'm going to put actually burnt sienna on white. That will work. Let's start with a medium tone because we're working on black gesso on a black surface, so we don't need to go dark. I can start with burnt sienna and white. And I'm going to add a tiny bit of brown in here, burnt umber. Just realized this is not burnt umber. This is raw umber. So I made a mistake. I'm going to remove it and put burnt umber in here because it's more, there's a little bit more of a, it goes well with skin tone. So it's more reddish than raw umber. Okay, I don't want it to be too dark and not too light, medium tone. So I can have room for highlights and darks. So let's start from here. On this side, this is the first layer. With black, you will need more than 1 layer, of course, to cover. But instead of starting from dark, I'm starting from medium tone. I'm going to do the arm underneath the tray. A little bit darker because this is underneath the tray. So it's really kind of in the shadowy area. But once I come to this side, and this is going to dry darker, so I'm going to leave some room. This is here. Darker. Now, I'm going to take some white, more of the burnt sienna, and highlight here. It's better if I wait for it to dry a bit. While this is drying, I'm going to change my brush. Take the small one. And work on the hand here. I need this to be dark. And now I'm going to take white, put it in my color, and highlight the thumb. Slowly. And highlight now part of the fingers, rest of the fingers, but part of it. If you highlight too much, then you're going to end up with a very funny looking claw hand. So make sure that you highlight this part, and leave the rest in the shadow area. Really dark shadow, like the darkest you can go, right here. This is a very tricky detail. I know that when I was doing doing this in my sketchbook, this detail here took a while for me. I couldn't do it easy. Like it took me a couple of times to get it right. I'm gonna let it dry, and then I'll come back and highlight it a tiny bit more. All right, let's go back to the face. All right. I'm gonna try with my small brush. Take burnt sienna, white, tiny bit of burnt umber in there, but this has more white in it now. So I'm going to start where I see light. Now I see a lighter shade right here, cheekbones. His neck, muscle behind this area. Now I'm going to take a little bit darker, and then highlight this just a little bit darker. And again, it's going to dry darker, so I'm not worried. I'm just doing it slowly. I don't want to do it to jump. There will be another layer of highlights in a minute. more white. Parts of the ear. Darken a bit here. This needs a bit of adjustment. Again, a little bit more white in my color. And I'm going to try to highlight now slowly because the paint is dry, so it's easy for me to highlight soft, create a soft highlight. A little bit of dark here, so burnt umber. And I will adjust if there's any need for adjustment in terms of value when it's dry. Right now it's still wet. I don't want to jump into conclusions here without, or I don't want to adjust anything before it dries. The paint dries. It makes a big difference with acrylics. It dries different. I can see that the ear is highlighted too much. So I'm gonna soften this a bit. Take a bit of brown, a little bit of brown, and soften all this here, darken it. I can see that the cheekbone is a bit rounded. So I'm going to go in and soften this round shape. And go to let this dry. I'm going to go to the arm and highlight using both both browns with white, mostly burnt sienna, and highlight the arm. Start from where the highlight is. Go down. I'll change my brush. Now I'm going to take a bit of more white and highlight this area, but don't go all the way down. That was another challenging part. That's good. All right, let's go down to the fingers. White with my burnt sienna, but not as white as this, because that's in the shadow. Okay, that's it. This is a touch of black. I'm gonna shape underneath, shape this. Okay, that's better. And I'm gonna take a bit of black with my brown, just a tiny bit, and go in here. Not much, because what's happening is that I don't want to turn the ear around, so I don't want to. You can see just this part of the ear. You can't see the whole thing, but there's a little bit of a shadowy area in here, but not hard. Like, don't do it into that turns into a strong hole in there. Now, this part of the neck is a little bit highlighted, which I'll show you which one as soon as I get the right color going. Okay, right here. A little bit more. There. Because this is still wet, I'm able to blend softly. Again, one more time, a little bit more white into my skin tone, and just do this. Now I can see, well, I'm not sure if I can see it, but yeah, it is there. I can see part of his eyebrows, which will give it a nice look if I do that. Like that. And his eye. That's it for this part. Right, now for the shirt and apron, I'm going to use cerulean blue, black, and white. So basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to take gray. I'm going to make a gray, soft gray. And I'm going to take a tiny bit of that cerulean blue and put it in. Tiny bit. Just to make my gray, like a light bluish gray. Let's take it more black in here. Darken the gray a bit, because I'm going to need those darks. I'm working with white. Even if it's too dark, that's okay. I can always highlight it. Now, I'm going to start from this part. A little bit of a movement here in the shirt. It goes down. The vest is black, so that helps. I'm just going to leave the black just the way it is. And I'm going to use black, ivory black after to go over the vest and the hair. First layer is always more or less covering the canvas. Even though you can't see the folds yet of the sleeve, I'm going in the same direction of the folds. It helps when I start highlighting. Now, let's do this. Do the apron as well. It's almost the same colors. A little bit less bluer. Less blue than the shirt, more grays.